the deadliest leopard Jim Corbett ever hunted. More than 400 people. That number alone should make this story impossible to ignore. In the history of recorded man-eaters, only one animal is believed to have killed more people than the Panar leopard, the infamous Champawat tigress. Think about that for a moment. Not a tiger, not a lion, a leopard, a predator weighing barely a fraction of some of history's most feared killers. Yet this single male leopard turned entire villages in the mountains of northern India into places of terror. People stopped walking alone. Children disappeared from pathways. Families barricaded themselves inside their homes every night. And even then, they weren't safe. What made the Panar leopard especially terrifying was not just the number of victims, it was the way it hunted. According to Jim Corbett, man-eating leopards were often more difficult to hunt than tigers. They could climb better, hide better, move more silently, and were bold enough to enter villages and even houses in search of prey. Between 1875 and 1912, more than 11,900 fatal leopard attacks were officially recorded across British India. Among all of those killers, one name stood out: the leopard of Panar, a man-eater so elusive that villagers called it a demon, a predator that survived every trap, every hunting party, and every attempt to stop it, until one hunter finally accepted the challenge: Jim Corbett.
When I first heard of the Panar leopard, I was occupied with another notorious man-eater, the Champawat tigress. Even then, stories of the leopard reached me. Stories of entire villages living in fear. Stories of people being taken from roads, fields, and eventually from their homes. At first I heard these reports as many hunters hear such tales at a distance. But over time, the reports multiplied. The dead kept accumulating. And eventually, I decided to see the situation for myself. The leopard's territory lay in a remote part of Kumaon. By the time I arrived, hundreds of lives had already been lost. The animal was almost never seen. That was one of the greatest difficulties. Many man-eaters leave signs. The Panar leopard left victims, very little else. The people of the district believed it could not be caught. After hearing their stories, I began to understand why. My own belief was that the leopard had acquired its taste for human flesh during a severe cholera epidemic. Many victims of the disease had not received proper burial. Leopards scavenging those bodies gradually lost their fear of human flesh. And when that supply ended, some turned to hunting the living. The Panar leopard appeared to be one of those animals. Unlike many man-eating tigers, it was not crippled. It was not old. It was not weak. It was a healthy adult male. That made it far more dangerous. In April of 1910, I was taken to a house where an attack had occurred the previous night. A husband and wife had been sleeping together when the leopard forced its way in. The husband met me outside. His face showed the exhaustion of a man who had survived something terrible. He told me,
"साहिब, उसने उसका गला पकड़ लिया है."
Sahib, it took hold of her throat. Inside the house lay his wife. She was only about 18 years old. The leopard had clamped its jaws around her throat and attempted to drag her away. As her husband pulled desperately on her arm, the leopard drove its claws into her chest. The struggle had torn deep wounds through her flesh. The room was hot. Flies filled the air. The wounds had already become septic. After examining her condition, I knew her chances of survival were very slight. The husband looked at me and asked,
"क्या आप उसे बचा सकते हैं?"
"Can you save her?" There was no honest answer I could give that would comfort him. Instead of leaving to seek help that would almost certainly arrive too late, I decided to remain with them through the night. As darkness fell, the girl's suffering worsened. I later wrote that I hoped no one would ever witness the agony of a human being who had been caught by the throat by a leopard or tiger and survived. All night I listened. The only indication that the leopard remained nearby came from jackals. Again and again, their alarm calls echoed through the darkness. The predator was circling, waiting, yet it never presented itself. By dawn, it had vanished. Months later, in September, word reached me of another series of attacks. 4 men had recently been killed. To reach the affected villages, I walked roughly 30 miles through difficult jungle country. The region was remote. Travel was slow. Every report came from people who had already lost relatives, friends, or neighbors. One villager told me,
हम सूर्यास्त के बाद घर से बाहर नहीं निकलते।
"We do not leave our homes after sunset."
तेंदुआ हमें देख लेता है, लेकिन हम उसे कभी नहीं देख पाते।
The leopard sees us, but we never see it. That statement perfectly described the challenge. The Panar leopard had survived because it remained invisible. I decided to use goats as bait. The first goat disappeared without my seeing the leopard. The animal had approached, killed, and carried away the bait without revealing itself. 3 days later, it returned for the second goat. This time I was waiting. Darkness had become nearly absolute. I could not see the leopard. I could barely see the goat. What I could hear was the attack, the sudden struggle, the movement, the sounds of the kill. I fired toward the sound. For a moment, I believed I had missed. Then I realized the leopard had been hit. But once again, it escaped into the darkness. Many hunters would have waited until daylight. I chose another course. A line of men carrying torches accompanied me as we followed the wounded leopard. Before we began, I asked them not to run. I needed their light. Without it, any opportunity would be lost. Together, we moved toward the brush where the leopard had disappeared. The tension was immense. Every man knew what we were following. Every man knew what it had done. Then suddenly, the leopard appeared. The reaction of my companions was immediate. The men dropped their torches and fled. Fortunately, one burning torch remained on the ground. For a brief instant, it illuminated the animal. The opportunity lasted only seconds. I raised my gun and fired. The shot struck home. The Panar leopard collapsed. After years of terror and more than 400 victims, its reign had finally ended. It was the first man-eating leopard I ever killed, and one I would never forget.
When Jim Corbett examined the dead leopard, he found no injury that explained its behavior. No broken teeth, no crippling wound, no evidence of old age. The Panar leopard was a healthy adult male. That fact alone makes this story one of the most disturbing in the history of man-eaters. A healthy predator, more than 400 victims, and years of successful evasion before finally being stopped. Ironically, the Panar leopard is far less famous than the leopard of Rudraprayag, even though it is believed to have killed many more people. Corbett later abandoned hunting altogether. He became a wildlife photographer, conservationist, and one of the most important figures in the protection of India's wildlife. Today, his name lives on through Jim Corbett National Park. But among all the predators he pursued, few matched the sheer scale of terror caused by the leopard of Panar. A killer that turned darkness itself into a weapon, and a hunt that remains one of the most remarkable true stories in the history of man-eaters.